We're halfway through this international break, and as always, it is injury watch for PSG player and also performance watch, obviously. But it's always a concern going into these international breaks. You don't know like what kind of shape the players are going to come back in. There's always concern about them playing too much, about having to take on long trips, time differences, and so on. So let's do a little bit of a review of all of our players. Where are they at mid break? What are the ones that are looking concerning? What are the ones that are looking better? And who's been doing well on the pitch as well? So first things first, like we talked about the French team yesterday, so I'll talk about this one kind of briefly. Go back to my video from yesterday if you want to hear more about the win against Brazil, which was quite interesting. At the end of the game, there was a little bit of a worry about Dembélé, as always, who came off the pitch around the 60th minute with a little bit of a grimace and kind of like touching his leg a little bit. So that was slightly concerning. What we're hearing today from people around him and from the staff of the French team is that there's absolutely nothing and that is completely fine. So pretty good news there. Obviously, it's Dembélé, so we always have to keep an eye out. But so far, it sounds like the player is doing okay. The one which we actually didn't foresee, who apparently has something, is Désiré Doué. And that one is a bit annoying. He came on also like for the end of the game against Brazil, and apparently picked up a knock to his back, which means it's unsure whether he's going to be able to play in the second France game versus Colombia. Didier Deschamps is expected to rotate his team and start a lot of usual substitutes. So in that context, Désiré Doué was looking like a potential starter on the left of the French attack. If he's got an injury, unsure if he's going to play, we'll have to look at what's going on in the next couple of days. But yeah, like he didn't participate in the post-game training, so there surely is a little bit of something there. Hopefully, if there is something, he can be released from the French team and come back to Paris a little bit earlier to get a little bit of rest and a little bit of respite. If that doesn't happen, it means that whatever he's got is really not that serious, and there's still hope of him playing against Colombia. Moving on to the other team on that game, Brazil. Marquinhos missed out that game from injury. He's been on and off in training with the Brazilian team since the beginning of the international window. And what we heard today is that Carlo Ancelotti decided to call up another central defender for their second game, and a right-footed central defender, Victor Ruiz, who's a Man City player currently on loan in Girona, a 20-year-old. And so, yeah, it kind of points the finger towards Marquinhos probably not being available for their second game. It's still up in the air, and the player hasn't been released either. So we don't know yet. But if you call up another central defender and you make him right-footed, it kind of points the finger at needing a little bit more depth in Marquinhos' position, specifically, where they actually already had two players who could play in that spot. So it really shows that, Marquinhos might not be entirely trusted and counted on for the next game. And at the same time, another thing, and this one is not really injury specific, but kind of a bad look for Beraldo, that he wasn't the one getting called up, because right now, like in their squad, with both Gabriel and Marquinhos out, Brazil had three central defender, one left-footed, two right-footed, and so they call up another one, and they decide to make it a right-footed defender instead of Beraldo, who's left-footed. Yeah, sadly, like it feels like he might be quite far from the Brazilian Seleção, and his hopes of playing in the World Cup might get dashed pretty quickly. So we'll have to follow up on that. But yeah, with the limited game time that he's playing in Paris, it's not looking good for Beraldo. In terms of other injuries, another player that I'm keeping my eyes on is João Neves. João Neves, Portugal hasn't played yet. They're playing later on tonight against Mexico. And João Neves has been kept on ice by the Portuguese team. He's participated in the first training session after the break started, which was a relatively light one. And since then, he's been following an individual program rest and trying to manage his fitness level. So it's very much unsure as to whether he's going to be able to participate in the Portuguese game. But at least, they're taking it easy with him. They're looking at taking care of the player. We know that he came off at halftime against Chelsea in the return game in the Stamford Bridge and didn't play against Nice after that. So question mark as to whether he's got anything or if it's just the accumulation of matches and bad fitness levels in general. But yeah, it's definitely one to keep our eyes on. Apart from him, in the Portuguese squad, Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, and Gonçalo Ramos all training normally, all looking fit and ready for the game against Mexico tonight. And depending on how that game goes, that might be a topic of conversation for our video tomorrow. So stay tuned on that, and should be a pretty interesting one, honestly. After this, on fitness, last bit of news that I had for you guys, and this one is kind of positive. Fabián Ruiz is still alive. He came out, there were some posts and photos on Instagram earlier this week. He's actually been training with a Spanish fitness coach slash physiotherapist in Spain. Obviously, there's not much of anyone remaining in the PSG campus this week. And so, yeah, it makes sense that the club would get him to go train separately, go home to Spain, spend a bit of quality time there. And the player is still slated to return to normal training after the international break. So hopefully it's kind of like the last bit of specific training that he gets after his injury. So that one is looking relatively positive, and hopefully after the international break we're going to see the return of Fabián Ruiz, whom we've been missing tremendously. So that was the injury part. Now let's talk about sporting performances as well, because believe it or not, we're also playing games and our players are definitely up on the pitch and participating. So first, last night, friendly game in Madrid in the Metropolitano Stadium of Atletico Madrid between Morocco and Ecuador. Morocco's first game with a new coach and first game as the AFCON champions. And it was a clash of brothers for us between Hakimi on one side, Pacho on the other, and it ended up in a draw. Pretty balanced game overall. I'd say Ecuador a little bit better in the first half, Morocco a little bit better in the second half. Both teams having their chances, but not the most exciting game in the world, if I'm honest. Ecuador scored first around the 48th minute, so at the beginning of the second half. And then Morocco managed a last-ditch equalizer around the 89, I think, 87, 89, something like this. So at the end of the second half, with an assist from Hakimi, who's credited with it. So, good performance overall from Hakimi, who's probably the second best Moroccan player on the pitch. He played the full 90 minutes, as did Pacho on the other side. So yeah, quite positive. Both of them have one more game to play later on in this international window, but both teams are at least playing in Europe. And in fact, Hakimi, I think, is going to be playing his second game in Lens. So, for all of the postponements of game, we still have a PSG player playing in Lens. So at least they don't have big travels. They don't have transcontinental journeys and time differences and so on. So that one is quite positive. And both players, Pacho and Hakimi, we know they're absolute workhorses when it comes to playing in games. So they play 90 minutes. They play 90 minutes every 3 days. That's not really ever an issue for them. So good one. Pacho, by the way, the Ecuador team, their central defense was Pacho and Ordóñez, who we talked about in our Mercato video. So the two of them are really that central defense partnership for Ecuador. Maybe next season, the central defense partnership for PSG, who knows? But definitely one to keep an eye on. Then, other performance that I wanted to call up, the Georgia national team, which has been, I don't know, like I'm not gonna say doing all right. They had a 2-2 draw against Israel, so not the best of results. But I guess Georgia, like I don't know, like the expectations are. I mean, they've got a good group of players, but the expectations are really not that high. But what I wanted to call up is that the 2 goals were scored by our very own Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, who scored on the 36th and 54th minute. At that point, Georgia was actually 2-0 up, and then they crumble in the next 10 minutes and conceded twice from Israel. So it ended up in a 2-2 draw. So really good game from Kvara, obviously, like leading the charge for Georgia. And it was also his first game wearing the captain armbands for his national team. Which is, always a great achievement in a player's career and really show Kvara's importance within the Georgia national team. But also shows something which, we've seen in PSG and I really enjoy is like how much of a leader he can be as well. I think, his attitude, we can always talk about like him not playing Hazard in Ligue 1 as in Champions League and why is that and is it real or not? But the reality is that Kvara is really like the kind of player who's never afraid to make that extra run or make that extra pass to benefit a teammate as well. Always got a great attitude on that, and so it's great to see him wear the armband and be rewarded for this and be elevated in a position of responsibility with his national team. And hopefully he'll do great things with that armband. So 2-2 for Georgia, friendly game because they're already eliminated and they don't have a chance of qualifying for the World Cup. And finally, the last player I wanted to mention, and this one is less positive, is our defender Zabarny, who with Ukraine took a 3-1 loss against Sweden in the playoffs for the World Cup qualifier in Europe. Yeah, disappointing for them. 3 goals conceded by Gyökeres, all three. So he took a hat trick, and Zabarny is partly responsible for all 3 of them at least. So not strong enough defending on the first one, a bad pass to a teammate on the third one, like. Is in the picture on all 3 of them, and it's really not a good look. And even local Ukrainian media have called him out for it. He's getting really bad grades in the media. Typically, I think he's scored like 2 out of 10 for this game. Yeah, bad performance, and also like it's too bad because it feels like he's on an upward trajectory with PSG. But he didn't manage to break the downward trajectory that he was having with his national team. So that's disappointing. And like to add to that as well, like he was actually wearing the captain's armband for this game because the usual captain for Ukraine wasn't there. So it's really a night to forget, a night of heartbreak. Ukraine not going to the World Cup. It's a blow. I mean, like I don't think I would have put them as favorite against Sweden, who's always a decent team and a hard one to play against. But yeah, I'm sure they hope for the win and they hope to make it to the US and Mexico and Canada this summer. So we'll have to keep an eye out. We'll see how he comes back to PSG, if he can bounce back from the defeat, and hopefully give his all to towards PSG's success for the end of this season. So that's kind of where we are in this international break. International injuries, yes, a couple of them that we really need to keep our eyes on. I really hope that we don't have any major issues happening in the next 5 days. I think at this point, 5-6 days. I'm crossing every fingers I've got. Please do the same. It's always nerve-wracking, but it looks like the national team coaches are doing what they can to manage our players' physical stamina, fitness, injuries, whatever it might be, and being relatively careful with them in a way that we've not always seen. So that's all quite positive. And yeah, let's cross our fingers that they keep doing that. So anyway, if you made it this far, let me know in the comment what international player and teams you've been following, and which one is most interesting to you right now. As always, please drop a like on the video. If you've made it this far, massively helps with YouTube, and I am super thankful for every one of them. Really appreciate it. It's nothing, just a click, but please do it. And same thing, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it doesn't cost anything. It's massively valuable and helps show YouTube that this is good content that more people should be checking out. So please do it. Hit the bell as well to get notified of future videos. And don't forget, even in International Week, ici c'est Paris!